What happens when two powerhouse vocalists collide over respect, legacy, and the music industry? What unfolded on the Jennifer Hudson Show was one of the rawest, most explosive moments in daytime television history. The afternoon began like any other: bright lights, buzzing crowd, and Jennifer Hudson beaming in a radiant emerald dress. The audience roared as she introduced her idol, the incomparable, the legendary, the queen of funk herself, Chaka Khan. Chaka entered in an elegant black ensemble, dripping in statement jewelry, every step radiating 5 decades of stage command. She and Jennifer embraced warmly, but beneath the smiles, those who knew Chaka could see the tension in her posture. At first, the conversation flowed easily. Jennifer praised her as an inspiration. Chaka responded graciously, though her tone carried a measured weight. The focus was meant to be Chaka's new memoir, her own telling of her struggles, triumphs, and lessons. But Jennifer couldn't resist pressing deeper. "Jennifer, you've worked with Stevie, with Prince. Our audience would love to know, what was Prince really like in the studio?" Chaka's smile flickered. Chaka. Prince was a genius, a perfectionist, someone I respected immensely. And as I said, the book tells those stories in detail. The audience chuckled politely. Jennifer nodded, but leaned forward again. "Jennifer, of course. But speaking of legends, I have to ask about Whitney. You two were so close. Her passing was such a loss for all of us. What was she really like behind the voice?" The shift was immediate. Chaka's jaw tightened, her fingers tapping the armrest once, sharply. Chaka. "Whitney was like a daughter to me. Losing her was devastating. It's still difficult to talk about, which is why I chose to write about her in the book, where I could give it the respect it deserves." Jennifer softened her voice, but pressed again. "Jennifer, I understand. But it would mean so much for our audience to hear about the Whitney you knew personally." The air in the studio grew heavy. The audience sensed sincerity from Jennifer, but Chaka heard intrusion. She took a deep breath, her smile fading into steel. Chaka. "Jennifer, I thought we agreed this interview would focus on my memoir and my current work. These are deeply personal things. I've shared them in the way I choose to share them, not for sound bites." Jennifer's smile faltered, just slightly. "Jennifer, of course, and I respect that. Let's talk about the memoir then. What inspired you to tell your story now?" Chaka's shoulders eased, but the undercurrent of tension remained. "Chaka, because after all these years, I wanted to set the record straight about my journey, my struggles, my triumphs. Too many stories have been told about me. It was time people heard them from me." Jennifer leaned in again. "Earnest, Jennifer, that's beautiful. And I know there had to be moments where you had to fight to be respected, not just as a voice, but as an artist." For the first time, Chaka's fire sparked not in anger, but in truth. "Chaka, absolutely. This industry was not built to hand respect to women, especially Black women who demanded control over their art. I had to fight for every note, every credit, every ounce of ownership. And I never compromised my vision for anyone." The audience erupted in applause. Jennifer nodded, but her eyes shone with both admiration and defiance, though she was waiting to insert her own voice into the legacy conversation. "Jennifer, that's something I relate to. Chaka, being a Black woman in this industry today, I still feel like I'm fighting those same battles. Different time, same struggle." Chaka's gaze sharpened, her voice steady but cutting. "Chaka, Jennifer, with all due respect, you are fighting battles. But don't confuse your journey with mine. What I went through in the 70s and 80s carved out the road you're walking on today. You don't get to stand here in 2025 without the scars I had to take decades ago." The crowd gasped. Jennifer froze for a beat, caught between reverence and wounded pride. Then she leaned forward, her smile gone. Jennifer, and with all due respect to you, Ms. Khan, if we're still fighting the same battles 50 years later, maybe the road you carved wasn't finished. Maybe it's up to people like me to finish paving it. I was working with a producer once who kept trying to mold me into something I wasn't. He wanted to change my sound. My look, he even suggested I change my name. Your name. Jennifer blurted, incredulous. But Chaka Khan is iconic. Exactly, Chaka replied, leaning back with a wry smile. And I told him that. I said, you can work with Chaka Khan as I am, or you can find somebody else. But I'm not changing my essence for anyone. The audience erupted in applause. The conversation seemed to relax. Jennifer nodded, smiling, her tone lighter now. That's incredible. And clearly, it worked. Look at the career you've built. Your style, it's completely your own. For the first time that afternoon, Chaka's smile was unguarded, warm. Thank you. That means a lot. But then Jennifer made a choice that would flip the entire interview. Maybe she felt bold now that the rhythm was flowing, or maybe she thought she could tread gently into deeper waters. Either way, she decided to circle back. Chaka, Jennifer began softly. When you talk about standing up for yourself, it makes me think about the other battles you faced personally. You've been open about your struggles before, and I just think your strength in overcoming them is incredible. The air shifted instantly. The warmth evaporated. Chaka's smile vanished. Her fingers, which had been lightly drumming on the armrest, went still. She fixed Jennifer with a stare so sharp it could slice glass. Excuse me? Chaka's voice was low, almost too quiet. Jennifer pressed on, oblivious or maybe hopeful. I just think your journey of recovery is inspiring. I know there are people watching who could really benefit from hearing how strong you are. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the audience, who didn't quite know why, felt it. A nervous cough echoed from the back row. Finally, Chaka spoke. Jennifer? Her voice carried decades of battle-worn authority. I thought I made myself clear backstage about what topics I was comfortable discussing today. Jennifer shifted in her chair, visibly uncomfortable now. Chaka, I didn't mean to overstep. I just thought maybe your story could help people going through similar struggles, my story. Chaka cut her off, eyebrows arching sharply. My story is not your content, Jennifer. My struggles, my recovery, my private battles, these are not talking points for your ratings. The crew froze. Camera operators exchanged uneasy glances. In the audience, whispers rippled through the crowd. Jennifer swallowed hard, her voice turning defensive. I respect that. I do. But you've talked about these things before, in other interviews. I just thought maybe other interviews. Chaka leaned forward now, eyes locked on Jennifer. Which interviews, exactly? Jennifer faltered. Well, I mean, over the years you've spoken about your journey, and I just thought, you thought what? Exactly. Chaka's voice cracked like thunder. That because I've been in this industry 50 years, because you call me a legend, that my personal life is fair game for anyone who wants to bump their numbers. The accusation landed hard. Jennifer's cheeks flushed crimson. Her eyes hardened, anger flickering through her discomfort. Chaka, that's not what this is about. I have nothing but respect for you. Respect. Chaka barked out a laugh, sharp, humorless. You call this respect? Agreeing to focus on my book and my music, then blindsiding me with questions about my deepest wounds on live television. It's not live, Jennifer tried, but her own frustration was bleeding through now. And I wasn't ambushing you. I was trying to have a real conversation with you, not just a surface-level promo interview. The tension in the studio was unbearable. Even the applause sign operator had frozen, unsure what to do. A real conversation. Chaka's voice dripped with venom. Jennifer, let me explain something about real conversations. They're built on mutual respect, on consent. When someone sets a boundary, a real conversation honors it. Jennifer's jaw clenched. I understand boundaries, Chaka, but I also understand that as artists, sometimes we have a responsibility to share our experiences if they can inspire others. Chaka's entire body stiffened. When she spoke, her voice was pure fire. Don't you dare lecture me about my responsibilities as an artist. I was fighting this industry before you were born. I was breaking down doors and paving the road for women like you while you were still dreaming of singing into a hairbrush. Don't you dare presume to tell me what I owe. The words slammed into the air like a gauntlet thrown. Jennifer's eyes widened. For a heartbeat, it looked like she might back down. But then something shifted. Her expression hardened. A flicker of defiance sparking to life. And I'm grateful for that, Chaka. I really am. But that doesn't give you the right to act like I'm some rookie who doesn't know how to conduct an interview. I've been doing this for years, and I know how to treat my guests with respect. Respect? Chaka shot up from her chair so suddenly several audience members gasped. You call ignoring my clearly stated boundaries respect? You call pushing me to talk about what I told you I would not discuss respect? Jennifer remained seated but straightened her spine, meeting the force of Chaka's presence head-on. I call it trying to have an authentic conversation with a legendary artist. I call it giving you a platform to inspire millions. That's what I call respect. Chaka leaned forward, voice slicing through the air. And I call it exploiting my pain for your content. The audience fell deathly silent. Jennifer's eyes flashed. You may have paved the way, Chaka. You may have 50 years in this business. But don't you stand here and belittle me. I've earned my place. I've built this platform. And respect goes both ways. Chaka's laugh was sharp, bitter, both ways. Jennifer, you haven't learned the first thing about respecting your elders or honoring the people who came before you. The word elders struck like a nerve. Jennifer rose to her feet now, standing toe-to-toe across the small table that divided them. Chaka, I have always shown you respect and admiration. But right now, you're being condescending. Condescending. Chaka's voice climbed, commanding the studio like a stage. You invite me here to talk about my book, my music. Then you drag me through personal trauma for ratings and I'm the one being condescending. That's not what happened here, and you know it. Jennifer fired back, her own voice lifting to match Chaka's. I asked about your journey. About things you've spoken on before. Respectful questions. Chaka's eyes narrowed. She let out a humorless laugh. Jennifer, you wouldn't know a respectful question if it bit you on that. Oscar-winning behind of yours. Gasps rippled through the audience. You want to talk about my struggles? Fine. Let's talk about how young artists think they can dismiss. The very legends who made their careers possible. The production teams scrambled in the wings, debating whether to cut to commercial. The tension was electric, unspooling on live television. Jennifer's cheeks burned crimson. I never disrespected you. Chaka, not once in this entire interview. Then you have a different definition of respect than I do, Chaka snapped. Because where I come from, when someone says a topic is off limits, you don't circle back, you don't poke and prod, and you sure as hell don't say the word addiction on television. The word landed like an explosion. Chaka's body went rigid. The studio sucked in a collective breath. Jennifer's eyes widened in horror. Chad, I didn't mean you. Didn't mean what? Chaka's voice thundered. You didn't mean to violate my privacy. Didn't mean to exploit my struggles. Didn't mean to disrespect me in front of millions. Jennifer looked helplessly toward her team, but no one moved. Every producer, every cameraman was frozen. Chaka, please, Jennifer said, her voice breaking now. Let me apologize properly. I made a mistake. A mistake. Chaka roared. Jennifer, this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. You chose to ignore my boundaries. You chose to push me. You chose to put your show above my dignity. The confrontation had hit a fever pitch. Audience members leaned forward in their seats, phones sneaking up despite the no recording rule. They knew they were witnessing a moment that would explode across headlines. Jennifer's hands trembled as she tried to salvage the wreckage. We can fix this. We can edit out anything you don't want edited out. Chaka's laugh was scalding. You think this is about editing? You think you can cut away disrespect and pretend it never happened? The whole world just saw it, Jennifer. And they'll never forget. The silence that followed was so absolute, it felt like the studio itself was holding its breath. Jennifer's voice cracked with desperation. That's not what I meant. I just meant we could have a real conversation about what just happened. We could address it properly. A real conversation. Chaka shook her head slowly. Disbelief etched across her face. Jennifer, you keep saying real conversation like you know what that means. A real conversation starts with respect. It starts with listening when someone tells you their boundaries. In the wings, Jennifer's producer was frantically waving for her to de-escalate. But the two women were locked in, oblivious to the chaos outside their bubble. Jennifer leaned forward, her words tumbling out. I was listening, Chaka. I swear I was. I thought maybe, in the moment, you'd be willing to share something that could really help people watching. Chaka's eyebrows shot up, her voice sharp as glass. In the moment. So you thought you could manipulate me? Catch me off guard? Get me to spill what I already told you was off limits. The word manipulate hit Jennifer like a slap. Her face drained, then flushed scarlet. No, I would never manipulate you. I respect you too much as an artist. As a person, Chaka's laugh was bitter, humorless. Respect for me as a person. If you respected me, Jennifer, you would have honored what I said before the cameras rolled. You would have focused on my book, my music, my tour. Instead, you turned this into a therapy session for your audience's amusement. Jennifer looked around the studio, as if suddenly aware of the hundreds of eyes locked on her. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, but still defiant. That's not fair, Chaka. I wasn't chasing drama. I honestly believed your story could inspire someone out there. Chaka stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. Let me explain something about my story, Jennifer. My story is mine. Mine to tell, when I want, how I want, and to whom I choose. It's not yours to extract for content. The power balance had shifted completely. Jennifer, though still the host, now looked cornered on her own stage. The audience whispered uneasily, caught between fascination and discomfort. Jennifer's eyes brimmed with tears. I see that now. I overstepped, and I am truly, truly sorry. Chaka's reply was ice cold. You're sorry now. Sorry because you've been called out on national television. Sorry because your disrespect is on display for the world. But where was that sorry when I sat right here, telling you what was off limits? Jennifer's lips trembled. I thought I was giving you an opportunity to inspire. Chaka's voice thundered. Jennifer, I've been inspiring people for 50 years. I've been sharing my music, my soul, long before you were even a thought. I don't need you to hand me an opportunity to inspire. The age and legacy reminder cut deep. Jennifer's shoulders sagged under the weight. I was honored to have you here, Chaka. That's all I wanted to honor you. Chaka shook her head. If you'd truly been honored, you would have respected the agreement we made. You would have honored me, not exploited me. Jennifer wiped at her smeared makeup. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to make it right. Chaka's tone was final. You can't. Some things can't be fixed. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. The silence in the studio was suffocating. Even the crew seemed frozen, unsure if they were filming a segment or history. Jennifer's voice broke. "So, what happens now?" Chaka held her gaze, then turned to the room, the cameras, the crew, the audience. Her voice carried with the authority of a woman who had fought her whole career to be heard. "What happens now, Jennifer, is that I leave, because I refuse to be disrespected. I refuse to be reduced to content. I leave because sometimes walking away is the most powerful statement of all." The audience was riveted as Chaka removed her microphone with steady hands and placed it on the coffee table. Then, with her heels clicking like a drumbeat of finality, she began walking toward the exit. She stopped once, turning back. Legends are not content. We are human beings. And when respect is denied, we take it back by leaving. The studio fell dead silent as Chaka Khan walked off the Jennifer Hudson Show, leaving behind a host in tears, an audience in shock, and a confrontation that would be replayed and dissected for years to come. Jennifer remained frozen, standing in the wreckage of her own stage, realizing she had just lived through one of the most humbling and unforgettable moments of her career.